Hello, I'm Dan Plashkes, S&P Data, and welcome to another episode of Truth and Share. Today I have a really special guest. His name is Bret Boone. Many of you that know baseball, whether it's Bret, his brother, or his grandfather or father, knows that the Boones have a long history. I've known Bret since Bret moved back to Southern California. Our kids played baseball, but Bret has been really kind to my family, and I've really got to know him. We're going to talk a bit about baseball because I think everyone out there would be interested, but I've really been always followed Bret and how he's kind of leveraged his personal brand to build his post-career. I also know Bret as a father. He's an incredible dad and has incredible children. We'll want to talk about them. So, Bret, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Danny. No, it's good to be here. It's good to be here.
Great. So, by the way, I've spent a lot of time, and his stories are legendary. So I'm going to start. Let's talk baseball before we get into you a bit. But who was the greatest baseball player you ever saw?
It's easy. Barry Bonds. No question.
So I've always had talks. I mean, if you're a baseball enthusiast, it's just great to talk to this man. And you've always given me the same answer. And if I can go into my Dodger, as you know, I love the Dodgers. Bret was coaching the Oakland A's and a special coach many summers ago, a few summers ago. And he ran into a Dodger kid he told me about named Julio Urias, aged then, 17 or 18. He had not made the majors. What did you say about Julio?
He was. I was a special assistant to the general manager in Oakland. So basically, my title was I would go around in the minor league affiliates, and I'd spend 3 or 4 days with A-ball, and then I'd go to Midland, Texas, where our AA was, and I'd spend 3 or 4 days. At the time, a lot of prospects were there. And I was in San Bernardino one night, and this lefty comes on the mound. He looks real young, and I'm watching it. It's the third inning. It's the fourth inning, and I kind of asked somebody. I said, "Who is this guy?" He said, "That's Urias. He just turned 18 this week." So he was 17, 2 days before his start. And it was the end of the summer, and I'd been, I've been to AA, AAA. I worked with our low A quite a bit, but everywhere in the minor leagues that season, including the seasoned AAA type players, this was by far the most polished, best looking minor league pitcher I had seen all year. And I said, this guy's going to be really good. And
I remember you telling me that.
Well, I always have kind of kept, one eye shut, but I'm always watching Urias because of that. He made an impression on me. That's the thing. When you're in this game and you've been in it as long as me, it's pretty tough to make an impression. And I just go back to that night in San Bernardino, and I said, this kid's going to be. I would be shocked if this kid didn't have a real promising career ahead. And I know he's been bogged down with some injuries, but I think what you got to see in this last World Series is, from what I'm thinking, that's just. This is what's coming down the road for Urias, and that's everything's got to go right. He's got to stay clear of these injuries, which we all do, as Major League Baseball players. But I think the sky's the limit for this kid. He's fearless. I think he proved that. I think he's at the ripe age now of 21 or 22, and on the biggest stage, I think he's kind of forecasted what his future could possibly look like.
Great. Let's talk about your family. So you were always, you almost knew no better, right? Your grandfather. Why don't you tell everyone where were you born, raised, and obviously your dad, and then, when did you dream that you wanted to be a major league ball player?
Well, I kind of had the naive approach, ever since I can remember, that's all I wanted to do. And if you weren't sure, just feel free to ask me, because I'll tell you and everybody else around me what I'm going to do. And,
right.
I had a great childhood. I grew up, my dad played a long time in the major leagues. I had a grandfather that played a long time before him. So I had a lot of real, baseball was kind of put out there for me at a young age. And it was never pushed on me by any means. I was always very supported. And I think my dad's...
By the way, even you, to this day, you never pushed your kids. And your
No,
dad
no.
never, I watched, I've seen it. I mean, you guys, you got to want to play, right?
Well, I tell you, this game is so tough at the highest level, and I learned, I think, from my dad. So now, and Dan, you can attest to this. We've been in many a game together, and when I'm at a game watching my son, or I have two 16-year-olds now, it's going to be tough. I'm going to try to be as unnoticed as I possibly can be. I'm not very vocal. I don't have too much to say. I watch the game, and after the game, if my son has a question for me, I'm there. I really don't push it on him. I try to stay away. Jacob, my oldest son, just signed recently with the Washington Nationals. And,
Congratulations.
thank you. And he's a good kid, and it goes far beyond the athletic prowess that he has.
Can I
He's
interrupt? So it's
sure.
not, you should be proud. As you know, I'm fans of you and Susie. For anyone out there, Bret has been a big fan of my kids and very supportive of both my boys, one in particular who was friends with his son. His son doesn't just aspire to be a baseball player. So when I think of what you guys have raised, they raised a student first. This kid went to we go to a high school that's very elite in terms of people going to the highest ratio, I believe, of any public school in the state of California to going to Ivy League or Stanford. And his son followed, just a really smart kid, ended up playing baseball, ended up going to school at Princeton first. And so he did that, and I think that he probably would. I know there's no question he'll graduate. He's a brilliant kid. But obviously when COVID hit and stuff, he did the next thing. But you should be very proud. He's unique, as is your daughter and the twins. But, obviously Jacob's within the lines of following his dream, but he's got this education. I've always been so impressed. You deserve congratulations, you guys as parents.
Well, thank you. And with Jacob, he's he's a pro ball player. So his first spring training is going to be coming up in March, and he's going to be an A-ball, and hopefully, by June, he's going to have his degree from Princeton. So pretty good head start on life. But the difference between Jacob and myself, Jacob's a little bit more of a realist. He's a little mature in certain ways that I wasn't back then. I had a one-track mind, and I had blinders on, and I was going to be a big leaguer, and I was going to play for 15 years, and I don't need to go to class, and I don't need a backup plan. And it worked out for me. But as I grew and when I was in the big leagues for, my first 5 or 6 years, it was pretty cool to look back at that 18-year-old self and just see how naive I was. I look at my growing up, and I think we all can, as we grow up and as we mature and get out in the world and work our jobs, and next thing you know, you're 30 and you laugh at yourself when you were 20. You're 40, you laugh at yourself when you were 30. And I look at it twofold. I look at it, I was naive, but maybe that was the edge I needed, because I truly did believe. And I think not only in athletics, but in any occupation you pursue, this is still our biggest weapon and our biggest tool. I don't care how fast you are. I don't care how much bat speed you have. I don't care how big of a cannon of an arm you have. This is still our biggest weapon. If you believe you're good, if you think you're good, you are good. And I believe that to this day. So I'm just a supportive dad. I go out and I support all my kids in whatever they pursue. I'm really glad that Jacob chose baseball. That's a really cool thing to follow kind of in the family legacy. But if he would have chosen something else, I would have been just as supportive in other, facets of life. My daughter graduated from USC, where I went to school, and she's doing great. She's on her own, and with this Corona right now, she's getting to work. She's getting to work from home, so she's doing really well.
She's in the broadcast business still.
No, she's in the tech world. She does stuff that I can't even explain to you what it is. But she's doing really well, and I have two 16-year-old boys that are juniors at Torrey Pines High School, and we'll see where they go next.
It's great. So career ends. One's never ready for it. It's not whether it's a money thing, but now you've got time on your hands. And you can only play so much golf, right? You happen to be a good golfer, and you like people. Those are two things I know. You're very kind and generous, but you want to do things. So, tell me where you are now, what you're doing business-wise. I'd love to hear more about it. I actually think that you've got an incredible disposition, and a guy like you, people like you, if you're successful, you're putting the effort in. It's just as hard work as when you're a career professional, but you do have a brand to leverage. So let's talk about it.
Well, I think, Dan, and this is one thing too, we talk about looking back at a younger self. And if I could turn back the clock and right around the time I retired, right around 2007, 2008, I would have gone about things a little bit different. I was at the end of my career. I played 14 years. And my attitude back then as a 37-year-old was, you know what, I've had a heck of a career. I've made a lot of money, and I'm going to go off into the sunset and play golf and go on vacation. And I learned pretty quickly, that's not, there's only so much to that. And after a while, you need to do something. I remember as a young man playing golf with some older gentlemen and, well-to-do guys that made a ton of money. And I'd look at them and I go, why do you go to work? And they pointed at me and they said, one day you'll realize why I still work. It's something you need to get up in the morning, have a passion for. And, I've done some investing through the years and I'm a part of a bunch of Marriott hotels, which I'm not day to day on, but right. That's what I do. Now I'm starting, I worked for the Oakland A's for a couple of years. I really enjoyed, especially the minor league side and helping these kids and giving them.
You're great with kids.
Passing on a little bit of my knowledge. I really enjoyed that, but I was missing out on a lot of the upbringing of my kids. So first and foremost, I'm a dad right now. I have two 16-year-olds that my first job is to get them out of the house and get them to college. That's the most important job for me right now. In the meantime, I do some stuff for as an analyst, and I'm kind of freelancing, but I started this podcast now. I think it's really cool. Who knows where it's going, but so far we've had some interesting guests. I don't take it too serious, but the more I get into it now, 18 or 19 episodes, it's kind of interesting. And tonight yesterday I had Adrian Beltre, and tomorrow we're going to have Jim Thome, and Wednesday night we're going to have Chipper Jones. So these are all real interesting teammates and guys that I played against that I respect, and it just gives you a different
and
look.
They respect you, by the way. So
yeah, and it gives you a little different perspective into Major League Baseball, kind of lets you behind the curtain a little bit. So I'm enjoying doing that right now.
Good things happen. So, as my son, Sandy Plashkes, as you know very well, has this owner's box, and he's trying to, they've got a hell of a software platform. It's got a real shot to business. But what's interesting is what he's doing is he's sort of taking a page out of these Barstool guys. And
very successful.
Right. And crazy successful. They get bought by Penn National. They're so popular that they draw people to the gambling site, etc. It's amazing. And it's this irreverence and stuff. And it's really interesting. So, but what I was telling them is it's like filling a sales funnel, right? You start with this at the top and little things, but one day you just keep working at it. It's like you're building something. And I'm sure with you, because you have such a great personality. And I think that people want to listen. So it's interesting, but you build it over time, and one day something goes and it hits viral, I tell them, and you just never know, right? But you don't measure it each different segment. It just happens.
Well, and it's also, it's kind of me getting outside of my box and kind of getting to a little bit of an uncomfortable zone. To put a camera in front of me and ask me questions, well, I can do that blindfolded.
You were raised that way, sure.
That's an easy thing for me to do. I've done thousands and thousands of interviews. If you want me to break down baseball and analyze whatever you need me to analyze, that's simple for me. But to jump on the other side of the microphone and being the guy asking the questions and drawing that out of other people, that's been a little bit of outside my comfort zone, but I'm getting a little bit better at it, and I'm learning in it, and it's educational, actually, more than anything. So being on that side of the mic, something I've never done. I was a little bit hesitant to do it at first, but now that I've done it a few times, I'm starting to kind of enjoy it. And I look forward to these podcasts. I look forward to talking to, like I said, Jim Thome tonight. We're going to talk, and he's a real talker. So he's going to want to talk, the swing on a different level and the mental side of the game. So I look forward to these podcasts and look forward to catching up with ex teammates, ex opponents, and really breaking down the game, like I said, in a different way, kind of letting the average fan out there that really loves baseball, let them behind the curtain a little bit and explain it to them on a different level what it's really like. It's cool stuff.
So I think it's great. And you have a network of people that trust you, and you were a teammate. When I think of you, you were a great teammate, and that's how you always judged. I spent, as a lot of time sitting with you, and you remember that my kid wanted to go to IMG for baseball, and you called up your ex-teammate Chris Sabo, and if Boone said he was a good player, he was a good player, and you were just a great teammate. And I think that in my business, you have to understand, I'm a huge believer in team sports. I don't care about your success, but you got to learn to work with others. You can be a leader. You got to understand. And these sports are really great way of forming the work on teams. You don't always get your way. You don't always, as agree with your manager, right? So I think that you have a lot to learn that can be transferred outside of baseball.
Yeah, and I think sports in general are such a great training tool for our kids to teach them about life, to teach them how to get your butt kicked and get back up and go live to play another day. I think that the life lessons that we can learn from sports is invaluable. That's why I always, when you're a kid, you might not be the best baseball player, football player, but find something to compete in, because that's going to teach you invaluable lessons that are coming in the business world, wherever that kid, whatever road he pursues. I think they're invaluable lessons. And as a player, you talk about guys that trust me. And when I played, I really didn't care. I mean, my teammates knew me intimately, but I really didn't care about an opponent, especially when I was young, whether you liked me or not. You look at the other side of the field sometimes, you don't like the way a guy looks, the way he walks, the way he talks. But as long as you respect him, that's all I demanded. I said, I don't care if you like me, love me, hate me. But when we play this game from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock every night, you're going to respect me when it's over. And that's always was the most important thing. I still think it's the most important thing. And if I call a friend or an ex-teammate and make a reference, I want you to know that you can trust me, because I don't just come at you with a name here and there. If I come at you and I put my name behind it, I believe in it. So
right, and that comes out. I think that's great.
Yeah.
No, and your name. I think that's a great process. So I have some things I want to end with you on, but the first thing I want to ask you is, every question I asked you the same question a decade ago, and you gave me the same answer. You said Barry Bonds, hands down, greatest player.
Not even. You
tell a story. Not even close. You told me another story that I don't know whether you're comfortable, but the Junior Griffey story.
Which one?
In the locker room. The one was he was in the locker room and you had to go get him. You're a rookie.
Oh, yeah.
Can you please tell that story?
Sure. Kenny, I'm a rookie playing for Lou Piniella, and Lou calls everybody son. And at the time, I was kind of just weaving my way, trying to establish myself. This is 1993. And we're in Texas, and this is before even old Arlington, which this year there was a new Arlington.
Right.
So this is 3 Arlingtons ago. And the clubhouse was down the left field line. And it was about a good 2 or 3 minute walk. It wasn't right off the dugout. So before the game, Kenny's already, I'm like I said, I'm finding my way. I'm trying to establish myself. Kenny's a 3-year veteran. All right. We're the same age. And Kenny was my locker mate on that particular road trip. And I see him right before I go out to stretch. I see Kenny sitting with his feet propped up. He's watching this is one of the first mini TVs that came out, and he's watching cartoons. And I go down, get ready, stretch. I'm hitting 6th or 7th in the lineup. So I'm just kind of milling around the dugout before the game. And Lou looks at me and he goes, "Son, where's your buddy Junior?" And I said, "Lou, I don't know." I said, "Last time I left him, he was in his locker, and he happened to be DHing that day." And Kenny's always hitting 3rd. And he goes, "Well, would you go find him?" So I've got my helmet on already, I think, and I'm hitting 6th. I run up to the clubhouse. He's sleeping. And I wake him up, and it's like that panic attack you have when your alarm didn't go off and you got a meeting.
Had it so many times.
And I didn't see much panic ever from Griffey. You know, he was a pretty cool cat. But I saw that panic when I woke him up. I said, dude, you're up in two batters. Jumps up, puts his jersey on. You know, we're both running down to the dugout. Like I said, it's a 2 or 3 minute walk. He gets there. Lou looks at him and said, son, what are you doing? Doesn't have his shoes tied. By that time, the announcer's coming to Ken Griffey Jr. Puts his helmet on, grabs his bat, surpasses the on-deck circle. Still shoes aren't tied. Hits the first ball about 20 rows deep into the bleachers for a homer on the first pitch, circles the bases, comes back in the dugout. Piniella looks at Piniella and says, hey, Lou, can I go back to what I was doing? And Lou looked at him and said, son, you do whatever the hell you want to do. And he went back up to the clubhouse, and the rest of us are just sitting around going, what just happened here? So that's one of many stories with Kenny.
That's a great story.
I do say Barry Bonds is the best I've ever seen, but Kenny is by far the best player I ever had the privilege of playing with. The biggest skill set I've ever seen from a player that was a teammate of mine by far is Ken Griffey Jr.
That's great. So now I'm going to end on a thing. I love this. It's sort of a loaded question. By the way, I had two questions. Do you think your Mariners were the best team that we ever saw in probably the modern times? How would you rank them?
I don't know that you can say they were the best if you just break down sheer talent. But I think the camaraderie we had, the something about that team. You know, I didn't believe before 2001 season. I didn't believe in team chemistry or anything like that. I believed in you get the best players, you go out and you steamroll people. Until 2001, that changed my mind. There was something about that team. And by the way, we had MVPs on that team, Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famers on that team. We had batting champs on that team, Johnny Olerud, Ichiro, future Hall of Famer. So we had a very talented team. To say they were the best per talent, I think that would be stretching it. But I've never seen we had something special. We'd walk onto the field, and I try to explain this to people because it doesn't happen too much in your professional life. But we would look at our opponent, and the look in their eyes was like, we're going to get beat. And they knew it. You know, we'd come out in the seventh inning down by 2, and I could just look at the players in the other team, and they knew we were going to come back and get them. We had that look in the clubhouse. We'd look at each other in the dugout, and it wasn't a bunch of assuming, arrogant people. It was just a nod or a wink or a look that, yeah, you know we're going to win right now. And it was something I've never gone through before in my professional career and never went through again after. It was just an unbelievable special year. And the fact that we didn't finish the deal that year still is kind of perplexing. It was too surreal not to win the World Series that year. We ended up not winning it. So I don't know. Yeah. It's something we still talk about when we get together.
Something that's a little humor. You have a brother.
Mm-hmm.
He's remembered for a very famous home run.
Right.
Who's the best of Bob's sons? And you have another brother, also a very good ball player. Who's the best? Who had the best career of the two boys?
Well, I heard it put this way the other day by my father when he was asked that question, and he said, "Well, you got to check the tax returns." So just check those.
I love it.
I thought it was a great answer. Dad.
I think that's your answer. That's a father's answer, isn't it? Yeah. I love that. That's fantastic. Anyhow, I wanted to just wrap it up and thank you. You know, just from my own perspective, I remember Jackie wrote a paper when he was very young, and he talked to you about it. And you remember, and you read that paper, and you goes, I could have written that paper. And I always felt that, you know, what I always loved about you, and I think it serves you very well, is you're incredibly kind, the most as generous a person, but you also have a little FU in you. And I think it serves people. If you're an entrepreneur in my life, you know, listen, you always, you want to treat people fairly and transparently, but, you know, you've got to be able to stick up for yourself too. And Bret Boone, you're one of a kind, great, and you should be proud. As I said you know how I feel about you and Susie and raising of your incredible children. And good luck with, obviously, like you said, good luck with Jacob. And, you know, he's got that education. He's got the world by the tail, right? So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you, Dan. And tell the boys I said hello. You know, your kids had a special time and a special place with me. And wonderful family. And it was a pleasure doing this for you today. It was kind of cool catching up.
All the best. I look forward to seeing him. We're going to set you up with Sandy when he comes during Thanksgiving. We're going to get you going. Good luck tonight, and thank you as always.
All right, Danny. See ya.
Bye. See you later. Bye.